So, good evening, good morning, good afternoon to whatever part of the world you're joining us from. And thanks for being a part of this webinar. I would like to welcome you all here to this webinar called All You Need to Know About Emotional Intelligence. I'm Ruchira Banka and I'll be your host for the evening today. I'm sure we all would have had seen experienced or seen our people going through emotional breakdowns at different stages of our life. Don't we want to look at ways to overcome these? Emotional awareness, ability to identify our emotions, and ability to harness those emotions is what consists of the skill set comprising of emotional intelligence. I'm glad that there are educators like you all who care to know about this and throw some light on this concept of emotional intelligence to help your learners out. To begin with this, I would like to thank Shaminli for providing us this platform where we discuss this concept of emotional intelligence, which clearly resonates with the mission that Shaminli carries. Let me introduce Shaminli to you. Shimin is a Japanese word that means citizen, and Shiminli is an edtech platform that aims to create global citizens. Shiminli provides skill-based programs to schools with belief that students need holistic education to shape up as resilient, confident individuals who are ready to prosper in the real world. With a vision to create these future-ready citizens, Shiminli provides lessons to students that focus on development of life skills and academic skills with professionally trained teachers from across the globe. The idea of giving the best education to future citizens raises the thought of getting educators together. And that is where we come up with webinars like the one today and with many more to come. Today, to talk about emotional intelligence, we have Dr. Russ and Ms. Patrice, who are our facilitators with Shiminli and align themselves to Shiminli's mission. Let me introduce the speakers to you. We have Ms. Patrice Comrie. She's a facilitator at Shiminli, where she helps to nurture essential life skills within students from K1 to 12. She holds a bachelor's degree of arts in modern languages from the University of West Indies in Jamaica, where she currently lives. During her studies, she received intensive training in language, linguistics, literature, translation, and interpretation. Subsequently, she's become more proficient in languages like English, Spanish, and French. Education has been a passion of hers, and her teaching journey officially began after completion of her degree in 2011. In addition to that, she has over 15 years of experience in performing arts, and within that time, she has trained several groups in music, dance, and drama. Over the years, teaching has afforded her the opportunity of interacting with students and peers of varying ages, backgrounds, and cultures across different continents, such as Europe, North America, Africa, and Asia. Her hobbies include singing, dancing, and creating. Her philosophy in life is nothing tried, nothing done. Resonate with that philosophy, Patrice. Therefore, she strongly believes that success starts with simply trying. Even though sometimes goals may seem impossible at first, not trying to achieve themselves is never an option for her. Thank you, Patrice, for being a part of this webinar. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now we have Dr. Russ, who obtained his PhD in history and politics from University of Melbourne. He also holds a master's degree in international relations from Moscow State University of International Relations, a top-ranking diplomatic school. Dr. Russ is a strong educational professional with a history of working in higher education sector of Australia and proven ability to effectively communicate with learners from diverse cultural backgrounds. He is passionate about teaching and mentoring, writing, curriculum development, research, information management, and public speaking. He's fluent in Russian, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. I personally have had the experience to attend many of his classes, and I salute the way he conducts classes for all age groups. Thank you, Dr. Russ, for being a part of this webinar. Stage is all yours, Patrice and Russ.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So welcome everyone. I'll start us off today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So our objectives for today, we'll be answering three main questions actually. So what is emotional intelligence? Why do students need emotional intelligence? And how can we teach emotional intelligence? So these are the three main questions we'll be answering today. before we get into it, let's have a little discussion. So you can use up the chat, you can open your microphones for this section. How do you feel right now? How are you feeling? You can just shoot some answers in the chat. You can open your microphone, tell how you are feeling. Dr. Russ, how are you feeling? Let's
Great,
start with
I'm great.
you.
I'm feeling
Okay.
great. I'm feeling great.
Good, good, good. Excited? Wow, okay, good.
I'm
All right, we'll
curious
just,
to know what are you going to share with us during this
okay,
webinar.
curious. I'm liking these words. Okay, can I share? Tired. Okay. Ruthen says she's tired. Yes, that's me every day. All right, and you could also, for me, this is my one of my first webinar, so I'm definitely a bit emotional as well. So I'm excited, I am a bit nervous, and I'm ready to go. So excited, good. So very good. So why do you think you feel the way you feel right now? So I'm excited because this is my first webinar, and I'm just excited to share. Rashira, you're curious because this is an interesting topic, right? And you want to know. Right. So why do you think you feel the way you feel right now? Okay, I'll give you a few seconds just to think about that, and then maybe send why you feel tired, why you feel great, why you feel good, excited. So you can open your microphones, or you could just maybe send a message in the chat like you did.
It's hard to explain why we feel
Okay.
the way we feel sometimes.
It's hard to okay, look at that. And that's the point of this activity, because it's hard to explain how we feel at times. And sometimes because because I had a good night's sleep, good, very good, and I'm prepared for the day ahead, very good. So it's always good to be able to tell why you feel what you feel. And how do you normally manage your feelings, whether good or bad? Can you think of any ways? I know these questions they are mind-boggling because we don't normally think about these on a given day, these questions, why we feel what we feel and how we manage our feelings. Okay, so let's move along. So this is exactly what emotional intelligence is. It is knowing what you feel or what others feel, why you feel the way you feel, okay, or why others are feeling that way, and how to manage or deal with your feelings or those feelings. So that's exactly what emotional intelligence, EI, that's exactly what it is. So why do students need emotional intelligence? There are many studies that have shown that students with high emotional intelligence stand a better chance of success in school, and not just school, but life in general. Okay, this is because EI helps students to develop skills, and we will go into those skills that they develop. Self-awareness. Self-awareness is having a strong sense of yourself, knowing exactly who you are. So nobody needs to validate you. Nobody needs to define who you are. It's to understand exactly what you like and what you don't like. You are aware of your strengths, your weaknesses, and you are able to tell the situations that may trigger a negative emotional response, and as such you avoid them or you keep away, and they see themselves from other people's perspective, not just their own point of view. Okay, so that is definitely a character trait of somebody who is emotionally intelligent. All right, so another character trait is empathy. You are empathetic. And this is not to be confused with sympathy, where you don't really know how the person feel. You don't put yourself in the person's shoe. It should not be it should not be confused with that. So empathy is actually walking in someone's shoe. If you know that saying, it's actually identifying and understanding people's feelings. And even though they might not say they might not say exactly what they're feeling, you can read into that. You can be sensitive about what their situation is and show more compassion. It's also about caring how your actions might affect other people, okay? And provide support where necessary. Another important skill that people with emotional intelligence normally have is interpersonal skills. So you're able to stay calm and positive when you're communicating, no matter how you feel. Maybe you're angry about a particular situation. Maybe you're excited, so it can be from one end to the next. Maybe you're super excited, but being able to control yourself, being able to manage how you communicate is definitely a character trait of people with high emotional intelligence. You can compartmentalize. And I honestly, personally, I struggle with this. So it's not just something that you get overnight. That's what I want you to understand. It's not something that you can just achieve overnight. It's a work in progress, continuously working on this and being able to compartmentalize, so prioritizing the thoughts that are necessary right now, prioritizing what is important, so you're able to communicate your feelings. So people with high emotional intelligence are able to communicate their feelings effectively, and they can read and handle other people's emotions. And this is a big part that a lot of us miss. We listen effectively when we have high emotional intelligence. Self management. So that's another skill that comes along with having emotional intelligence. You are able to take charge of your own feeling and academic growth. You set realistic goals, because sometimes in a given day you can say, okay, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve that in this time frame, but is it really realistic? So being emotionally intelligent is being able to set realistic goals. Saying no to unreasonable demands from others. Sometimes people can demand so much from us that there are sometimes that we find it difficult to say no to people. But being emotionally intelligent is being able to say no when these demands are just too much. And as such, we are able to manage our stress levels and avoid stressors. Okay, self-motivation. I just love this face every time I see this picture. He's so excited to learn. And being emotionally intelligent, that is a part of the journey. That is one of the skills that you develop when you are emotionally intelligent. You motivate yourself. So you are your own source of motivation. You can connect with your inner enthusiasm to get the job done. So even if it's something maybe you're not interested in, or maybe it's something that is so difficult, you're able to dig deep and find that motivation. You can identify interests and find a way to keep inspired. All right, so self-management, self-motivation. So how does this all translate? How can students use these skills that we talked about? So for example, here are some quick examples. So you have an exam, the student has an exam. They can quickly overcome exam stress to be able to focus on actually doing the exam. Okay, so for a lot of us, when we were going to school, exams were big stressors for us, right? And so it is important that we develop emotional intelligence from an early age so that something like an exam stress is a thing of the past. They can overcome, so students with high emotional intelligence, they can overcome boredom and maintain their concentration during topics that are not interesting to them. And me, for example, I know when I was going to school, math was not my favorite subject at all. And sometimes I would lose focus because it's not something I'm interested in. But had I gotten that training from early, I would be able to know that, okay, this is something that I need to get through. So I would be able to dig deep for that emotional intelligence and tap into that skill to be able to maintain my concentration. So students with high emotional intelligence, they can avoid obsessing over disappointing grades and instead motivate themselves to do better next time. All of these things can help students to be successful in school. Here we have some other examples. Students can recognize and avoid distracting situations at home, at school. So this is also another way in which students are able to strive to get good grades because they can, okay, say they're at home. Their little brother, for example, is watching something. Being emotionally intelligent, instead of going to see what is on the TV, what game is brother playing, what game is my little sister playing, instead of doing that, being emotionally intelligent would help you to be able to focus on your exam that is coming up, focus on studying, doing your homework first. So that is another way in which that could happen at school. If you have peers that are distracting the students, they can be able to, say, okay, now is not the time for that, and move away from those situations. With students having emotional intelligence, they're able to communicate effectively with their parents, with their teachers, and their peers. This is another way in which you can solve problems, conflict resolution. Okay, so maybe their peers, they're having a conflict, a disagreement. Emotionally intelligent students are able to move through that because they know exactly how to communicate in order to quell a conflict. They know exactly how to relate to their teachers. They also know if they're experiencing anxiety about an assignment, for example, or a project, and they seek help instead of waiting until last minute to maybe feel like they're panicking about it. So they express themselves. So how do we fit in as educators? How do we fit into this big puzzle? It's great for students to be book smart. It's great for them to get good grades, right? But being emotionally intelligent is what sets them apart from the regular. So it sets them above the rest. So we as educators, therefore, need to change our approach. And for this section, I will invite Dr. Russ to just tell us how we can teach emotional intelligence. Dr. Russ.
Thank you, Patrice. Thank you, Patrice. Very interesting. And yeah, I should start with my own observation. See people and students from different cultures and different countries, I can see that the concept of emotional intelligence is not known to them, unfortunately. And you can easily tell that, for example, such and such culture is not receptive, is not embracing this idea. I mean, there are very few, I would say, places in the world at the moment, where this idea of emotional intelligence is accepted. So the first step that we all as educators need to do, we need to acknowledge that this idea of emotional intelligence is valid. I know teachers who don't really believe in the importance of this thing. They say, oh, emotions, emotional intelligence, what is that? Like this traditional customary IQ is the most important thing. That's what they think. But the fact is that emotional intelligence is as important as academic success. So, and the question is, how can we teach that? Yeah, I'm not going to give you a set of clear instructions on how you can, teach this concept to your children, because it's to your students, because this is an abstract concept in some ways, but that's also something that should not be talked about in the form of lecture. Yeah, it's something that you need to incorporate into your classes that you are already teaching. So how can we teach emotional intelligence? So to help students become emotionally intelligent, many teachers are nowadays are incorporating so-called social and emotional learning programs into their curriculum. So what are these tactics? What can we do as part of this curriculum geared towards developing emotional intelligence? So first of all, we can incorporate social and emotional learning in your classes. Yeah, so instead of lecturing students about what emotional intelligence is, I mean, it's important to raise their awareness of what emotional intelligence is. Yeah, but we should refrain from lecturing them on the concept. Yeah, so instead of lecturing them on the concept, we could just incorporate this social and emotional learning into what we're already teaching. Yeah, so for example, we can encourage our students to discuss a book or a history lesson, or we can encourage them to discuss some socially challenging situation. We can engage them in a conversation about some social problems. Yeah, so by encouraging our students to think critically, yeah, and thinking about what would we do if we were these people, yeah, we are already helping them acquire this skill of emotional intelligence. Yeah, so engaging them in conversations about social issues and things around us, yeah, that already helps them to develop empathy. Yeah, understanding how others feel, and what would you do if you were one of these people. The second thing that we could do is encourage students to engage in problem solving. Yeah, so there are many ways in which we can help our students to engage in problem solving. So we can, for example, ask them to participate in the development of class rules. Yeah, so they can give you opinions on what should be done, what should be allowed, and what should not be allowed. We can also, for example, ask older students for some input on bullying, yeah, what they think about this problem and how this problem can be resolved at school. So we can also set up group projects in our classes. Yeah, they are very useful in terms of bringing students together, encouraging them to discuss things, and this is like, and developing their communication skills as well. All these things, yeah, they comprise the essence of emotional intelligence. Yeah, that's why it's difficult to give like a set of instructions what we should do. So problem solving. Number 3, model respect. So learning how to be respectful towards other people is an important life lesson. Yeah, so obviously the polite use of language and encouraging students to imitate your behavior is one of the most and one of the best way to encourage them to be respectful. So you can, for example, be respectful towards your students by being aware of their cultural and language backgrounds. Yeah, so especially if we're talking about classrooms which bring together students from different cultures and countries, this is really important. And encourage your students to do the same, yeah, by modeling behavior, the correct behavior. So students should learn how to be respectful, yeah, of one another, even if they are different and disagree. So you also need to remind them that they don't have to agree with someone in order to treat them with respect. Yeah, disagreements are still possible, but respect is what is important, yeah, and Shiminli places great emphasis on that. This is one of our values. Number 4, yeah, we can encourage students to share their opinions, yeah. So this concept of open-mindedness, again, unfortunately, it's something, well, not even open-mindedness, yeah, allowing students to discuss, to share their opinions. Unfortunately, this is something that many teachers don't really do, yeah. So many classes are still, I mean, in many parts of the world, are still delivered in a form of lecture rather than something like, you know, initial discussion, then discussion with the whole class, and then the teacher can say something, yeah, and can give some very short lecture on the topic. So we need to encourage students to share their opinions, yeah. So because we need to be flexible towards their ideas, yeah. So when students feel that we are actually listening to them and we want to hear their opinions, their desire to learn is increasing and their confidence is increasing as well, and they want to participate in the class. So it also helps them, you know, with envy and jealousy as well, yeah. So envy is often the cause of bullying, yeah, especially when it comes to, you know, aggression in a classroom. So this is something very important as well. So not only does it have impact on their academic performance, but it also influences their relations with their peers and classmates. So can we go to the next slide, please, Patrice? Thank you. So there are other things that we can do, yeah. So modal empathy, as Patrice has said today, empathy is one of the most important components of emotional intelligence. Is when we understand what others feel, yeah, we can relate to them. So how can we teach our students to be empathetic, yeah? So regardless of age, students should know what empathy is, yeah. Empathy, I mean, it can be a tricky concept to explain to our students, yeah, but they need to know what empathy is to be able to learn what it is, yeah. So we can intentionally model empathy in the classroom, yeah. So for example, if one of our students becomes upset, yeah, so instead of just reacting to that, we could just acknowledge their emotions, yeah, and ask them how they're going to deal with it, yeah. So for example, so you can say, yeah, if you see that someone is dealing with some negative emotion, yeah, so you can ask them, you can say, yes, I understand how you feel, yeah, but I encourage you to think about why you feel this way, and basically help them understand that their emotional response and the situation that they are in, these are two different things, yeah, and their emotional response sometimes can shape their response to the situation, yeah. So instead of just reacting to that, just encourage them to just acknowledge their emotions, yeah. You can say, I understand how you feel, yeah, we can work on the solution to the problem together, yeah. So if there is a fight, yeah, between 2 or 3 students, yeah, you can ask them. I mean, this is a little bit tricky because I'm immediately imagining situations, yeah. So the most important thing is to acknowledge their emotions, yeah. We must not dismiss them. We must not say, oh, don't worry about that, yeah. Active listening, as Patrice has said, this is part of acknowledging our students' emotions. Number 2, another related thing, observe others and discuss their body language, yeah. So for example, again, if we have 2 friends in the middle of a conflict, yeah, try not to give your reaction, just give your observation, yeah. You could say something like, I can see that you know, your fists are clenched and your face is red. Is there any particular reason why you feel angry? Yeah. Would you like to tell us why you're feeling this way? So that would already invite some sort of self-reflection, yeah, and probably less their would make their emotions less intense, yeah. So again, observe and discuss their body language instead of just reacting to the situation, yeah, or giving them a punishment. And the last piece of advice here is listen to understand and don't respond right away, yeah. So for example, if a student is looking at their cell phone in the classroom, yeah, instead of saying put your phone away, yeah, without even giving them the chance to explain why they're doing that, yeah, you could just show empathy by saying, oh, you don't usually have your phone out, is there anything wrong today, yeah, or is there anything going on? So once you understand their perspective, you can choose your course of action. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you should not punish your students, yeah, like academically, but you validate them as a person, yeah. So you listen to them, and this is something that helps them grow as a person, yeah. So listen to understand, yeah, and not to respond. Don't respond straight away, yeah. So again, it doesn't mean that your students could get away with it, yeah, but trying to give them the opportunity to explain why this and that is happening helps them grow as a person, yeah, and it helps their emotional intelligence, helps to develop their emotional intelligence as well. All right, and if we could go to the last slide here. So there are other pieces of advice. Yeah, there are many things that we could do to help our students to become emotionally intelligent people, yeah. These are some of the recommendations that I would give. So the first one is teach students to volunteer and give back to society, yeah. So when we teach our students to help others, we make them feel important, yeah, and we show them that they're doing something that really matters to the world, yeah. The act of charity teaches them to give back to their community, and they will develop this value that come with it, yeah. So something number two, something that many teachers don't usually do, yeah, allow students to make mistakes. It's perfectly fine to make mistakes. Yes, students need to learn that every action comes with a consequence, and it's okay to make mistakes. Yeah, so we learn from our mistakes, and as someone said, mistakes and errors, they need to be welcomed because the exposure to them in a safe environment can lead to higher performance and more knowledge, yeah. So we should not punish our students for mistakes, yeah. So we all make mistakes in our lives, so it's completely fine, yeah. And the safe environment of our classroom will only help them learn more. Number three, teach students to look at the big picture, yeah, the bigger picture. So students need to understand, yes, that there are global things, yeah, bigger things, yeah. So if they are upset about something, yeah, so for example, let's say they got a bad mark, yeah. So instead of obsessing over this bad mark, yeah, you could just ask them, yeah, a question. You could say, will it matter in 1 or 2 weeks? And your student will think, oh yeah, it probably won't matter in 1 or 2 weeks. What matters is how much knowledge I get from school, yeah, what I learn and how this knowledge will help me in life, yeah. So instead of worrying about, you know, these small things like getting a bad mark, you can help them see the big picture, yeah, why they are at school and why they're learning, and the value of learning should be emphasized, yeah. And the grades are important, but they're not as important as the whole idea of education. And number four, teach your students to be optimistic and grateful. So gratitude is another part of emotional intelligence. Yeah, intelligence. Gratitude is connected to emotional stability and internal control. So when our students look at the bright side of things and when they are grateful for what they have, that allows them to handle the tough times and helps them to look optimistically to the future. Yeah, and again, it helps them not to be upset about, you know, things that are not that important. Yeah, so these are some of the recommendations that I would give to those teachers and educators wanting to incorporate emotional intelligence training in their classes. Yeah, of course, I think the most important thing is that educators and teachers should acknowledge that this concept is very important. Yeah, and this is a great starting point. I'm sure that if you understand that emotional intelligence is important, you will be able to work it out for yourself. Yeah, how you can teach this concept to your students. But the most important thing is to embrace this idea. Yeah, and I know that many teachers are struggling with that. And I understand that we were all taught in traditional classrooms, yeah, where probably, at least from my experience, where we were not allowed maybe to talk about our emotions, yeah, and emotions were not acknowledged and repressed maybe. So times are changing, things are changing, we're living in a globalized world, yeah, and emotional intelligence should be a part of our curriculum, yeah, even though unfortunately not many schools embrace this idea. Yeah, so the main thing is to understand the importance of this concept, and then you can, I'm sure, find ways to incorporate that into your classes and curriculum. That's all for me. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Russ. I think that really made sense to me, at least here, and I would like to hear from all the other participants also. That you know, how have you been able to embrace this idea of emotional intelligence in your classes, if at all you've done that in the past? Or is there any takeaway that you would want to take from this session to your classrooms, to your students, and maybe to your personal lives as well? So let's, you know, spend a few minutes talking about your experience as well. If anyone would want to contribute, you have the access to unmute, so kindly unmute.
Okay, in the meantime, Rushir, can I just add something here?
Please, Patrice.
All right, so I think that it's very important, as Dr. Russ kept, reiterating, it's completely and just important for us as educators ourselves to understand emotional intelligence, because we have to come from a place of experience. We have to have some experience with the idea ourselves. So we cannot teach this thing that we have no idea about. We have to embrace it ourselves. So we need to know, are we emotionally intelligent? If we really think about it, are we emotionally intelligent? And we should also know and acknowledge the fact that it's a work in progress. It's not something that we will develop overnight. So here are some questions that you can ask yourself to really know if you have emotional intelligence before you start, embarking on that journey to teach to others. Do I try to control my thoughts? Do I manage my feelings? Do I think before I speak? Do I learn from negative feedback? Do I acknowledge others? Do I have a balanced view of myself? So these are just some of the questions that we can ask ourselves, because really and truly, we have to embrace it, as Dr. Russ says. We have to model it. So I really, that point really sits with me. And that's my takeaway.
Yeah, and Patrice, thank you. As you've said, and I mean, no one is an expert on emotional intelligence, simply because we're all human beings. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
if we're trying to be emotional intelligent people, that's already, a bit like a lot. Yeah, and emotional intelligence helps, because before like maybe 10 years ago, I was not very emotionally intelligent. Yeah, I would allow emotions get in the way of my thinking. Yeah, and it doesn't mean that I am able to control my emotions now. No, but I can at least distinguish that these are my emotions. This is the real situation. Yeah, and this is my reaction, and this is probably the real situation. Yeah, and it helps a lot to save relationships. It boosts human communication. Yeah, not to lose friends, not to lose people around you. Yeah, just because you were angry with them or something. Yeah, or it helps a lot, this whole idea of emotional intelligence.
It does.
Yeah, so in order to they say practice what you preach. Yeah, in order to teach that, you really need to believe in this thing, and I do believe in this thing. Yeah, because it is changing my life in some way. It's work in progress, of course. Yeah, but it's something worth doing, definitely. And we need to at least let our students know that this idea, this concept, this view on things and life around us exists. Yeah, and maybe in a subtle way, kind of like push them to this understanding. Yeah, that like seeing the bigger picture and all the things that we have talked about today. Yeah, I know that some societies, some cultures, some countries are very, very, resistant to this idea. Yeah, or parents and teachers partnership is very important as well. Yeah, that's very important. I would agree with that, Gunchan, because I know, for example, situations, I can imagine a situation where, for example, the teachers are trying to impart emotional intelligence and parents are like, no, I need your grades. Yeah, I don't want to think about your emotions. I don't really, that's true. Like parents and teachers, they need to work in tandem. They need to work together. I think that's true. Even if a teacher is saying,
Agreed.
oh, emotional intelligence is important. Yeah. And your parents are like, no, it's not. Yeah, that's very true.
No,
And
I
that's
think, yeah, parents need to
counterproductive.
buy in that idea that when I'm emotionally aware of my feelings, when I know how to control myself in various situations that I face, so then I think automatically the grades are going to improve. I remember
Exactly.
Patrice talking about math being a subject. I myself am a math teacher, teaching math for around 20 years now, and I come across so many students and parents talking about that math is something that people fear. And
Mhm.
again, the idea is, how do we approach situations, because they have gotten that emotionally stuck into their heads that math is a difficult subject, I'll not be able to do it, it is something that I have to cram formulas for or something. However, if the way that we approach the students, we try to understand that what is the fear that they have. Fear is an emotion. Once they get control over that fear, I think things fall in place automatically. And Apurva also rightly has mentioned that they, conduct workshops for parents and students in this school as a big step. I think that's something wonderful
Yeah.
that we all, can adopt from this idea.
Mhm.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't see this message. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just, yeah, it's a very good, yeah, it's an excellent thing.
Yes.
Emotional intelligence workshops, yeah, it's a great thing. So many things that current school curricula are actually missing, yeah, and the whole idea of education, it should be, well, not revolutionized, but it has to be updated. It has to be updated, yeah, because the
True,
world
true.
is changing so fast. So, and emotional intelligence, global citizenship, yeah, and other ideas that humanly is supporting all these things, yeah, they need to be acknowledged. And I mean, some schools are doing that, the work in this direction, um, which is promising as well. All right.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyone else from the audience who would want to share their views or has certain questions for our speakers? We would love to hear, situations that you would have come across where you've not been able to handle sometimes, or have handled it beautifully, that you would want to share it with us, and we all can take those back to our classrooms. The whole idea of this webinar is to, share situations, share case studies and ideas that we've been able to implement sometimes, and that can help other educators and be able to take this to different classrooms across the globe.
I have a question. So for Dr. Russ, how does an educator improve emotional intelligence, especially to these students nowadays who they are so in tune with everything? Like, I think these students can actually teach their own parents to be emotionally intelligent because they're so aware. So how does one as an educator improve emotional intelligence in the classroom when these students are just so on point and on top of everything?
Well, the
A good
first step, thank you
question.
for this question. So the first step is to acknowledge that we can learn from them as well. This is
Yeah.
like, that's true. We need to acknowledge the fact that we can learn from them as well. And again, I know that many parents and teachers and educators, they think, I've got the degree, I've got the experience, I'm
Oh,
older,
yes.
for God's sake,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
And why should I listen? Why should I listen to you? But the truth is that the amount of knowledge, the amount of information that they are exposed to now, is not equal to the amount of information that we were exposed to when we were their age. Yeah. So when we treat them as respectfully, yeah, when we acknowledge the fact that we can learn from them, you validate them, you make them feel secure, you help them understand that they will be listened to, and that's what we actually do in our classes. Yeah, so thank you. Oh, that's interesting. So, for example, if I don't know something and my student is telling me about the fact that I didn't know about, I never pretend that I'm an expert. I say, oh, how interesting, I didn't know about that. So that's already something that we can cling on to, yeah, if we're trying to develop emotional intelligence as them. So the first thing I would say, the most important thing, is not to be intimidated by the fact that they may know more in some areas than we do, yeah.
They do,
And
yep.
just let them speak, yeah, let them speak and let them discuss, let them teach you, and that will make them confident, that will not repress their ambitions, yeah, that will help them a lot, and that will also help them treat others the same way. So that's what I would recommend. Yeah, not to be, that's completely normal. Again, we're all humans. Someone said, yeah, don't be teachers, be facilitators. Yeah, like that's why we call our teachers. Yeah, that's why we call them facilitators, because they facilitate what is going on in the classroom. Yeah, and
Right.
knowledge is important, but the way of obtaining knowledge, yeah, discussions, yeah, interactions, this is what truly matters, yeah, and this is what both students and parents and teachers, yeah, they can benefit from and enjoy the process as well, yeah. But I wouldn't be concerned about the fact that, and we just need to acknowledge that, yeah, because they've got the internet, they've got everything.
Yep.
So that would be
Thank you.
my approach. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you for the
no problem.
question.
Thank you.
It's a good approach. It's a very
Exactly.
good approach.
Agreed.
And students, they can see if you're lying, if you're pretending, like it's it's better to be
evident.
truthful,
Yeah.
it's evident, like if I for example, some of my students, they know what cryptocurrency is, like I'm not an expert in this kind of field, like, and that's
Right.
fine, that's fine. Cryptocurrency, I'm like, okay, tell me about it. Yeah, so here we're working on their communication skills, their presentation skills, that is already, the whole process is already at work, right? It's not like we are not doing our job. No, we are, but in a subtle way, yeah, and from
Right.
a different angle. So that's what we need to, I think, keep in mind.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Tariq. I'm from Jamaica. I just have a few questions. Well, mainly one question. First off, I want to say thank you both. Well, thanks to all three of you and Shiminli for facilitating this webinar with bringing awareness to emotional intelligence, especially in the classroom. It is something that I personally am trying to do my best to not only understand but excel in and help others to do the same. I have a question specifically asking for maybe suggestions or insight on how we would handle students who are, I guess we would say, are a bit more on the extreme end of the spectrum. So I'm speaking about students who, let's say, for example, one student who you observe continuously picks on other students in the classroom, or another student who you observe seems to be extremely reserved, and you would, one, for the first student, try to get that student to be more respectful to other students, or two, the student who is more reserved, get that student to speak out a bit more, or just to be a bit more confident. Do you guys have any suggestions or any insight on how we would be able to help those students develop?
Chris, would you like to? Or I would say that, or
Go ahead.
Patrice, if you, yeah, I would say that the most important thing is to provide students with a feeling of safety, yeah, the safe environment in the classroom, yeah, so that all emotions, as long as they don't, insult others or violate some common rules of decorum or decency, yeah, so all emotions are valid, yeah, so this feeling of safety, yeah, of that you are able to hear, yeah, to listen to them, active listening, yeah, not just pretending that you're listening to them, but actually listening to them. That's already, a good start. Obviously, all situations, yeah, they are different, and all people and personalities. And as an educator, it's your job, yeah, to understand, to know, to kind of to size up all your students, yeah, like their emotional profile, yeah, know your students. So that's why it's a little bit difficult to probably, give a some specific advice, yeah, because but I would start with this basic premise of safety and trust in the classroom, and that's something that can be done not in one class, yeah, it's something that emerges in the course of your work and communication with students. Patrice, maybe you have something.
No, I actually agree with you. It comes from creating a safe space within your classroom, having students know that they can come to you with their opinions, with their suggestions, with their feelings. It's creating that safe space and allowing them to feel safe with you. That's where it all starts. And knowing your students is definitely something that is important. Knowing each of your students, which will come over time, it's not something that can happen overnight. So knowing your students over time will help you to create that safe space for them, tailor your approach to each student. It's a case by case basis. That's what you have to do. And thank you so much, Tariq, for that question. It's a very important question. Thank
Patrice,
you.
if may I add something here? Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, you very rightly, both of you have said that we must create a safe learning environment for them. At the same time, there are a few strategies that I have used in the past to create such an environment and to be able to gain their confidences. Spend some time with both of these students who are at the extreme ends of the spectrum, to be, spend some time with them outside the classroom. So could be, having lunch with them at times when they're out on the field during their physical and health education classes, be with them, try to understand what they're doing, and observe them very carefully. Sometimes, having role plays in the classrooms helps them to understand how would the other person be thinking for this particular situation. We've had cases where we've tried to bring in certain movies, you know, relevant movies, of course, or certain clippings that have helped students identify that what I am doing may not be something that would be acceptable by the others in my classroom if somebody is, say,
Right.
bullying the other person. So just making them aware of these things by little steps like these. And I completely understand that when we go to the classroom as teachers, we have a lot in terms of completion of portions, in terms of adhering to the curriculum requirements and all. So at these point of times, what I have personally done in the past is setting up learning stations for them in the classroom, which has really helped them. This helps in differentiation as well as to be able to help individuals gain confidence in what they are doing. So a person who's very shy, not able to express himself or herself in the classroom, could be doing something well individually in a learning station, and then be able to come up and present that as success. So successes should be celebrated in the class maybe every day.
At every
That
level,
also
right?
really helps students develop that kind of confidence and be more emotionally strong.
Right. That's a good
I
point,
hope
Ashira.
this makes sense to everyone here, and Tariq, to you as well.
Oh,
Totally.
absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all three of you. I have my notes here, so I'll be definitely trying to put these into action. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
that sounds lovely. I think all of us have been able to get these steps on how emotional intelligence not only, you know, helps us become a better human, makes us self-aware, but be able to develop skills like self-management, self-awareness, and multiple skills that have been spoken about. These are the skills that we carry with ourselves lifelong. I can, I'm sure, even if I don't mention, but each one of us has this fact clear on our heads that whatever we did in our school lives, we would have forgotten that. If we need to help someone about, say, a chapter from geography that we would have done in grade 8, we would have to search about it, right? But if I talk about communication, if I talk about emotional intelligence, if I talk about self-awareness, a lot of us being into the space of teaching are able to talk about it. You know, we don't have to look for ideas, we don't have to look at definitions to be able to go back and help our students with that. So understanding that Shimanli is actually on this mission to help teachers to be able to bring these skills into the classroom. And if you wish to communicate with us, if you wish to collaborate with us at any point of time, please do write to us. Patrice, if you could just display our email ID where teachers can write to us.
Sorry.
Post
There
this
we
session,
go.
I'll also be sharing with you a feedback form. We believe in getting feedback, improving at every step, because we might not be the best. Everyone has their own opinions, everyone has their own way of thinking about things. So whatever suggestions that you would have for us, please do share with us on the feedback form that will be emailed to you. We look forward to collaborate with you and in multiple more sessions like this, and to be able to bring you support in terms of providing you Shimanli lessons. So looking forward to be in touch forever. Thank you, Dr.
And
Russ,
please,
and thank you so much, Patrice, for being able to,
Thank you.
thank
answer
you.
some of our questions here and throwing light on this such an important and valuable topic. Thank you so much.
And everybody, please don't forget about our Shimanli blog. Shimanli blog has many articles, more than 100 articles on different topics with lists on what, reading and a lot of stuff. Yeah, so it's very interesting. Please check it out. If you just type in Shimanli blog, it will be the first thing that will come up. You can find, a lot of info there, in an accessible form. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening and discussing things that we're all passionate about.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening and a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
Have a great evening and day and morning, everyone. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.